Have you ever noticed that the strongest men are often the first to leave? It's not because they lack patience or loyalty. It's not because they don't care. And it's never because they don't know how to love. In fact, it's usually the opposite. High-value men, those who know their worth, who carry responsibility on their shoulders, who give with open hands, are the ones who have endured the most in silence before they finally decide to walk away. For years, he may have tried to explain himself, to show up, to adjust, to soften his edges in order to keep the peace. He stayed late in conversations that drained him, gave second and third chances, told himself to be more understanding. He believed that effort was proof of commitment, and he poured himself into making things work. But inside, frustration quietly grew. Each time his needs were dismissed, each time his voice went unheard, each time his effort was taken as a given, something in him broke a little more. People often assume men are unaffected, that silence equals strength, that not speaking means everything is fine. But for him, silence was survival. He carried disappointments like hidden weights. He held back tears because the world told him they weren't allowed. He wore composure like armor, but under that armor was a man wondering, when is enough enough? And that's the truth no one talks about. High-value men don't walk away suddenly. They walk away after years of trying, after giving more chances than anyone realizes, after proving their loyalty in every possible way. When they finally leave, it's not in anger. It's not revenge. It's clarity. It's the recognition that staying any longer would mean betraying themselves. This video is about that moment, the breaking point where patience ends and self-respect begins. It's about the deep inner decision that separates men who settle from men who choose themselves. By the end, you'll understand why walking away doesn't mean weakness, and why sometimes the most powerful move a man can make is the decision to stop fighting for someone who stopped valuing him. Stay with us until the end. And as you watch, share your own story in the comments. Have you ever been the one to walk away first? Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally remembered your worth? The truth is, he never wanted to leave. Walking away was never his goal. Every man who values loyalty, love, and responsibility begins with the hope that his effort will be enough. That if he just shows up harder, works longer, listens deeper, she'll eventually meet him halfway. He doesn't wake up planning his exit. He dreams of building something lasting, something steady, something that feels like home. But slowly, reality tests him. He notices when the things he provides, his time, his attention, his consistency, are treated as though they'll never run out. He sees his sacrifices become invisible. He feels the weight of being expected to give without ever being filled back up. And even though he swallows it, even though he says nothing at first, a quiet voice inside begins to whisper, "You deserve better than this." For a high-value man, that whisper is powerful, because he knows what he brings to the table. He knows his loyalty, his consistency, his work ethic, his vision are rare. He doesn't need someone to validate his worth. He lives it every day in how he carries himself. So when his presence is taken for granted, he sees it for what it is, a warning sign. Still, he doesn't cut ties overnight. He tries again. He explains again. He bends a little further, thinking maybe this time it will be different. But deep down, he feels himself fading. He feels the energy draining from giving into a space that only takes. And when he finally makes the choice to walk away, it isn't because he stopped loving. It's because he realized love without respect will destroy him. That's why high-value men walk away first. Not because they're cold, not because they're detached, but because they know staying in a place that diminishes them is the slowest kind of death. They'd rather face the pain of letting go than the agony of holding on where they're not valued. And this is where the shift begins, where his silence turns into strength, and his departure becomes a lesson no one can ignore. At first, he tells himself it's just a phase. Maybe she's distracted, maybe she's stressed, maybe the connection will return if he just holds steady a little longer. Men like him are built to endure. They don't run from discomfort, they push through it. So he waits, he adjusts, he convinces himself it's temporary. But the shift becomes harder to ignore. The conversations grow shorter, the appreciation quieter, the intimacy less frequent. Where once he felt seen, now he feels invisible. He shows up with the same consistency, yet it no longer seems to matter. His efforts fall into silence, like speaking into a void. And though no one says it out loud, he feels the distance stretching wider every day. This is where the inner conflict begins. Because he knows what he brings, he knows his worth. But part of him still wonders, am I asking for too much? Am I the problem? That's the trap men often fall into, mistaking neglect for normal, telling themselves to lower their expectations so the relationship doesn't collapse. Yet inside, the cost is heavy. His energy dims. His laughter fades. His drive weakens. The man who once carried everything with fire in his chest starts to feel like a shadow of himself. And it's in this place of quiet erosion that high-value men make their hardest decision. They don't explode. They don't beg. They simply stop showing up where they are not valued. It's not an act of pride. It's an act of survival. Because he knows that if he continues to stay, he will betray the very core of who he is. And a man who betrays himself loses everything. His edge, his vision, his confidence, his peace. That's why when he finally walks away, it feels sudden to others, but inevitable to him. It's the conclusion of 1,000 silent moments where he realized his worth wasn't being honored. To her, it always looks sudden. To him, it was a long time coming. When a high-value man finally leaves, the world around him often reacts with shock. People ask what went wrong, why he didn't say anything, why he didn't try harder. But they don't see the full story. They don't see the countless nights he laid awake replaying conversations, the moments he swallowed his truth to keep the peace, the days he carried weight alone because asking for help only led to disappointment. He did try. He tried more than anyone will ever know. But a man who knows his worth will not keep pouring into a place where his effort is invisible. He will not keep explaining his needs only to be dismissed. He will not destroy himself just to keep someone else comfortable. That's the difference between high-value men and men who settle. The ones who settle stay because they fear starting over, fear being alone, or fear what people will think. But high-value men live by a different code. They understand that staying in the wrong place costs more than walking away ever will. Their time, their energy, their peace of mind are not negotiable. So when he walks, it isn't out of anger. It isn't revenge. It's clarity. He has already fought the silent battles inside himself, weighed the costs, faced the disappointment. And the conclusion is always the same. Nothing is worth losing himself over. That's why he leaves first. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much about the man he is becoming to remain stuck in a place that doesn't honor him. And though others may only notice his absence once he's gone, he knows the truth. He was gone long before he ever walked out the door. After he leaves, silence becomes his companion. At first, it feels heavy. The quiet moments sting. The routines they once shared echo with absence. He notices the gap in his day where her voice used to be, the late-night conversations that no longer come, the warmth that has been replaced by stillness. On the surface, it looks like loss. And for a while it is. But in that silence, something else begins to emerge, relief. The constant pressure to explain himself is gone. The energy he spent trying to prove his worth is no longer draining him. The second-guessing, the waiting, the unspoken frustration, it all begins to lift. For the first time in a long time, he feels space to breathe. It doesn't mean he stops caring. High-value men don't switch off their emotions. They feel deeply, but they also understand that pain can be a teacher, that silence is not empty, it's a reset. And in that reset, he starts to see what he lost while trying to hold on. His focus, his joy, his edge. He begins to return to himself. The gym sessions hit different. His work sharpens. His vision clears. The weight that once dulled him has been replaced with a new kind of energy. Not the adrenaline of chasing someone else, but the strength of choosing himself. And this is the truth many don't understand. Walking away is not just about leaving someone else. It's about returning to who he was before he dimmed his light. It's about reclaiming the parts of himself that were buried under compromise. Yes, he grieves, but in that grief, he finds growth. Because the man who has the strength to walk away is the man who has the strength to rebuild, to rise higher than before, to never again accept less than what he deserves. A high-value man doesn't collapse after he leaves. He rebuilds. Slowly at first, maybe even uncertainly, but always with intention. The space that once felt like loss begins to reveal itself as opportunity. The energy he once poured into someone who didn't see his worth is now redirected into himself. His body, his mind, his mission, everything sharpens. This is when people start to notice the change. He looks different. He carries himself differently. There's a steadiness in his eyes, a confidence in his step, a quiet certainty in the way he moves through the world. He's no longer trying to prove anything to anyone. He's living for himself. Walking away strips him of illusions. It forces him to confront the uncomfortable truth that not every love is meant to last. Not every effort will be appreciated, and not everyone he chooses will have the capacity to choose him back. That realization hurts, but it also frees him. Because once a man accepts that, he is no longer afraid of letting go. This is the transformation few see coming. They think his absence means he's broken, when in reality, it means he's leveling up. The man who once sacrificed his peace to keep something alive has now become the man who protects his peace at all costs. And that shift changes everything. He sets new standards. He draws firmer boundaries. He no longer entertains half-efforts, empty promises, or inconsistent energy. And because he refuses to settle, his life begins to align with things and people that actually match his value. This is why walking away is power. Not because it ends something, but because it begins something greater. It is the moment a man steps fully into his worth and refuses to compromise it ever again. When a high-value man is present, people often mistake his consistency for permanence. They assume he will always be there, always giving, always forgiving. His loyalty is seen as an endless resource, his patience as a guarantee. And because of that, his presence is underestimated. But the moment he walks away, the reality sets in. The silence he leaves behind is deafening. The steady hand that once held everything together is no longer there. The good mornings, the check-ins, the protection, the reliability, all the things that seem so ordinary suddenly feel extraordinary in their absence. It's not just about missing him as a person, it's about realizing what his presence represented. Stability, strength, safety, a foundation that made everything else possible. When that disappears, the void is undeniable. And that's when regret shows up. The very moments that were once overlooked now play on repeat. The kindness taken for granted, the sacrifices unseen, the patience ignored. They all come back, sharper than ever. It becomes clear that he wasn't just a man in the background. He was the center, the anchor, the force that kept everything steady. But here's the truth. By the time others realize what they've lost, it's already too late. High-value men don't circle back to where they were diminished. They don't return to situations that failed to honor them. Once they've made peace with their decision, they move forward, never backward. This is the part that stings the most, for them, not for him. Because while he rebuilds and rises, they're left with the echo of what they once had but didn't cherish. Once the weight of what no longer served him is gone, he begins to notice something powerful. Doors start opening. The energy he used to waste trying to be understood is now channeled into his goals. The hours once spent in conflict are now invested in building, creating, improving. His vision expands, his ambition sharpens, and his discipline deepens. This is where his true value shines brightest. Because a man who knows how to walk away is a man who refuses to compromise his purpose. He understands that peace is priceless and that the right people will never make him sacrifice himself to keep them. That shift in perspective changes everything. He starts attracting different energy, new opportunities, new friendships, and eventually, new love, connections built on mutual respect, alignment, and authenticity. People feel the difference in him. They see the quiet strength of a man who no longer chases what isn't meant for him. They sense the unshakable presence of someone who values himself too deeply to settle. And here's the irony. What once looked like loss becomes his greatest gain. Because by walking away, he didn't just free himself from what wasn't working. He made space for what was always meant to find him. He didn't lose love, he redefined it. He didn't abandon commitment, he elevated it. This is why high-value men are feared when they leave. Not because of what they take away, but because of what they become after. Stronger, clearer, unstoppable. Walking away first doesn't make him cold, it makes him wise. And in that wisdom, he builds a life that reflects his worth in every direction. Other men notice, some quietly, some openly, but they all feel the weight of his choice. In a world that often tells men to endure no matter what, to keep giving even when empty, to sacrifice themselves in silence, his decision to walk away becomes an act of defiance. It's proof that strength isn't measured by how much pain a man can tolerate, but by how fiercely he can protect his peace. For younger men watching, his example plants a seed. They begin to see that loyalty doesn't mean accepting disrespect, and patience doesn't mean tolerating neglect. They realize that walking away isn't weakness, it's discipline. It's self-respect. It's the refusal to let someone else determine your worth. And for women watching, his choice delivers a message just as clear. A high-value man is not afraid to leave. He will give his all, but he will not give himself away. His love is powerful, but it is never desperate. His presence is a gift, not a guarantee. This ripple effect is bigger than one relationship. It changes the culture of how men see themselves. It challenges the idea that being a good man means carrying everyone else's weight while ignoring your own. Instead, it redefines manhood as strength with boundaries, loyalty with standards, love with self-respect. Because the truth is, when one man has the courage to walk away, others find the courage too. His example becomes a mirror, showing every man what's possible when you stop begging for appreciation and start living as though you already deserve it. That's the silent power of the high-value man. He doesn't just leave, he leads. For the high-value man, the choice to step away is never rooted in anger. It isn't punishment, and it isn't revenge. It's clarity. It's the realization that staying in a place where he is undervalued is the slowest way to lose himself. And losing himself is a price he will never pay. Walking away becomes a declaration that his time is precious, that his love is sacred, that his energy will not be poured into people who treat it as replaceable. It's not that he doesn't want to give. He is, by nature, a giver. But now he understands that his giving must flow towards someone who values it, respects it, and meets it with the same strength. This is why high-value men walk away first. Not because they don't care, but because they care deeply about their purpose, their growth, their peace. They refuse to compromise those things for the illusion of connection. And here's the truth every man needs to hear. When he walks away, he doesn't lose. He rises. He reclaims the fire that was dimmed, the focus that was blurred, the strength that was buried. He becomes sharper, stronger, more alive. His life expands in ways it never could while he was stuck trying to prove himself in a place that didn't see him. The world calls it leaving. But for him, it's a return to self-respect, a return to purpose, a return to the man he was always meant to be. And once a man learns to walk away first, he never looks back. If these words found you today, it's because you were ready to hear them. You know now that walking away is not loss. It is strength. It is the moment you choose yourself, the moment you reclaim your worth. And if this message spoke to you, don't keep it silent. Let your voice be part of the change. Share your story in the comments below. Your truth may give another man the courage he's been searching for. Subscribe to this channel so you never walk this journey alone. Every video here is created to remind you of the power you carry, the respect you deserve, and the man you are becoming. And if you know another man who needs this message, send it his way. Repost it, share it, let it reach the ones still holding on where they shouldn't. Because sometimes, the right words at the right time can save a man from losing himself. Stay strong, stay true, and never forget, the highest value you can hold is the value you place on yourself.